For a long time, I've been really interested in feedback loops. This fascination started when I was learning more about my bipolar disorder and then evolved into a more broad interest in generative systems and consciousness. This eventually led me to creating my class on perception and new media art, which I teach at the New School, but immediately led me to creating these physical looping pieces that drift and mutate themselves. And the form that seemed to stick were these large rotating conveyor belts, which were originally just sculptures, and then as I began to learn more about computer vision and programming, became spools which could literally store information. What I mean by that is that I could make a green mark or a blue mark or a certain shape, and then program a system to interpret those symbols in a specific way. Suddenly, these sculptures became these massive player pianos that could play tones or control a system or convey information to a computer graphically. For my most recent piece, We Are a Pattern, I designed a music box that plays a whole reality. I wanted to bring the looping canvas interface down to a level that anyone could interact with. I'm really in love with the idea of conceptualizing individuals as gurgling, transforming patterns of habit. And if we zoom out, we can expand that conceptualization to an entire society. The idea of creating a looping system that we could all slowly, collectively nudge was really exciting for me. And so I designed this system in a way that would pick up the changes on a canvas spool based on the small, subtle touch from any individual.
And it's going to change this world. So you're making part of the house. How beautiful is that?
As opposed to having this just influence a score, I wanted to influence an entire reality, a whole sonic ecosystem. And so the markings on the canvas not only changed the music, but the behaviors and patterns of a small virtual world. I built the whole environment in Blender and Unity, and had way too much fun texturing and painting all the little details into this world. But what I was equally excited about was adding the sonic motifs to all of the moving characters and places. To give an example, there is a ghost that follows a lot of the characters around. And when the ghost theme gets close enough to the desert radio, you get the synchronous overlaps of the ghost sounds with the percussion. These small generative moments took me a really long time to figure out and perfect because I essentially had to create all the audio in tandem and then break the elements up across the entire virtual environment. While the markings on the canvas influenced how all these agents and characters interacted with each other, it also influences the controlled voltages of a droning Moog synthesizer that became the ambient anchor for the entire piece. The top of the screen gives some subtle cues into how this interpretive system works and displays a piano roll that, when triggered, fires a MIDI note and changes our relationship to the ecosystem. What really surprised me was how people tried to change the system. On the first day at the Hirshhorn Museum, guests were told that they could only touch the canvas to change it. But immediately, people were trying to circumnavigate this. There were people taking sunscreen out of their bags and rubbing it on the spool. Children were taking rubber ducks or a toy car and placing it on the canvas so that it would trigger the system. On the second day, I realized I really needed to lean into this, and so I brought more toys and papers and Post-its to see what people would try and do. They really did their best to test the boundaries of the system, and it was so wonderful to see that this was really only something they could do collaboratively. that they could really only substantially change the system if they worked together. I also had a phone line up and available so that everybody could call the characters and places inside this virtual world. And I remember when I first presented this idea, I got some criticism that the entire system was becoming way too complex, too maximal. And I love maximalism, but only if there is some direct metaphor which can cut through it. And for me, that was this very subtle interaction of contributing to the pattern. Changing this complex system was something that could only be done collectively.